In the realm of attraction, there's a powerful concept that many overlook: the power of absence. It may sound counterintuitive, but sometimes the best way to make someone miss you is to step back and give them the space to feel your absence. The Stoics understood this principle well. By detaching and allowing time for reflection, we can actually make our presence even more valuable. In relationships, when you're always available, you lose your mystery. Absence creates longing and gives people the chance to realize the importance of what they have. When you give someone time to miss you, you're not playing games, you're embracing the power of space, a tool that makes them appreciate you more deeply. The human mind naturally gravitates towards desire when it's unfulfilled. This is grounded in psychology. When you are around constantly, you are expected and thus taken for granted. But when you're not around, the emotional vacuum left behind activates a deep longing. The Zeigarnik effect, a psychological principle, explains that people have a tendency to fixate on incomplete tasks or unresolved emotions. The absence of someone you care about can create unfinished emotional business. This makes them replay moments, words, and gestures, often longing for more. In relationships, this works in your favor when you embrace strategic absence, being able to observe life with equanimity without letting emotions take control of your actions. When you practice emotional detachment, you are less likely to become overly clingy, needy, or desperate for attention. Women, in particular, are drawn to men who are emotionally stable, who don't chase after them constantly for validation. By showing emotional detachment, you create an air of mystery and intrigue that makes others wonder why you're not pursuing them. This absence of emotional attachment makes you more attractive because it shows that you have self-control, confidence, and a strong sense of self-worth. The art of silence is one of the most powerful tools you can use to make someone miss you. Silence speaks volumes in a world full of constant noise and chatter. When you choose not to respond immediately or act impulsively, it builds anticipation. This is especially effective in modern relationships, where texting and instant communication often create pressure to always be available. By leaving gaps in your communication, you give them the space to think about you, to wonder where you are and what you're doing. This strategic silence doesn't mean playing games. It's about showing that you are not bound to constant communication and that your life is full of other priorities. When you allow silence to work its magic, you create a sense of emotional depth, making her miss the moments when you were there. Human beings are naturally drawn to what they cannot predict. The predictability of someone's actions and responses makes them easier to take for granted. The Stoics believed in the importance of remaining calm and consistent in the face of life's challenges, but they also understood that unpredictability creates intrigue and keeps the other person engaged. To make her miss you, you must occasionally break the routine. Don't always be available. Don't always say yes to her invitations or demands. Keep her guessing, without being overly aloof or cold. This unpredictability makes her curious and keeps her emotionally invested, wondering when you'll be present again. This makes the moments when you do connect feel much more meaningful. Confidence is an essential trait in making someone miss you. However, it's not about being loud or brash, it's about subtle confidence. When you have a quiet self-assurance, it shows that you are not desperate for attention or validation. This type of confidence creates space between you and others, making them realize your worth and, in turn, miss you when you're not around. Around, people can feel suffocated. To make her miss you, create a healthy amount of emotional space that allows her to appreciate your presence when you're there. This is about being emotionally present when you are with her, and then pulling back when you're not. The space you create allows her emotions to be more deeply felt when you are together. It also ensures that when you return to her, your presence is both welcomed and desired. Emotional space doesn't mean withdrawing or being cold. It's about creating a balance that keeps the relationship healthy and ensures that you're never taken for granted. Absence is not something that should be feared. It's a powerful force in relationships. Desire is often built on the contrast between having someone and not having them. When you pull back or withdraw, you allow the other person to experience what it feels like without you. This contrast builds emotional tension and longing. She starts to realize that her life is more complete with you in it, which makes her appreciate you more when you're around. Your absence, then, becomes a tool to deepen the connection and make her want you even more. This principle is rooted in the Stoic concept of impermanence, the idea that things are valuable because they are temporary and that makes us appreciate them more. One of the most attractive things you can do to make someone miss you is to live a full life outside of the relationship. When you have your own passions, hobbies, and goals, you show that you are not dependent on anyone else for fulfillment. This is a crucial aspect of Stoic living, finding fulfillment within yourself and not relying on others for your happiness. When you live your life fully, pursuing your interests and passions with dedication, you become more attractive because you show that you have your own sense of purpose and independence. She sees that you have your own world, and you're not waiting for her to complete it. This independent life makes your presence feel more like a gift, and when you're not around, she'll realize just how much she misses you. One of the quickest ways to make someone miss you is by embracing the absence of neediness. Neediness comes from a place of insecurity and lack, and it's a major turnoff for many people. The Stoics understood that true strength comes from being self-sufficient, emotionally and mentally. To make her miss you, stop seeking constant reassurance from her. Don't cling to her for validation or attention. Instead, practice being secure in yourself, knowing that your worth is not dependent on her. When you stop needing her, you create space for her to appreciate you. Your absence, in this sense, becomes a sign of confidence, and it makes her realize how much she values you in her life. One of the cornerstones of Stoicism is emotional independence, the ability to maintain a sense of self-worth without being influenced by the opinions or actions of others. To make someone miss you, you must develop this emotional independence. Women in particular are drawn to men who stand on their own, who are secure in their own identity, and do not rely on external validation for their happiness. When you practice Stoic emotional independence, you stop seeking constant reassurance from her. Instead, you become emotionally self-sufficient, which makes your presence feel more like a rare gift, and when you're absent, she will feel the void left by your absence. This detachment creates the kind of desire that builds long-lasting attraction. Inner peace is a foundational aspect of Stoic living. The Stoic doesn't allow external events to disturb their peace of mind, and this mindset can profoundly influence your relationships. When you develop inner peace, it makes you a calm, confident presence in anyone's life. To leave a lasting impression and make her miss you, you must show that you are emotionally steady and unaffected by the chaos around you. Women are attracted to men who don't react to every situation, but instead respond from a place of calm and controlled action. By cultivating Stoic inner peace, you create an atmosphere of stability that leaves a lasting impact on her, making her value your presence even more when you're absent. Stoics believed in leading by example, and silent leadership is a key principle of this philosophy. To make her miss you, you don't need to constantly lead through words or grand gestures. Instead, silent leadership is about leading through actions, how you carry yourself, how you handle challenges, and how you remain consistent in your values and behavior. When you don't have to demand attention or control, people are naturally drawn to your strength. You lead by calm example and confidence, which creates a sense of security and trust. This quiet strength becomes even more compelling when you are absent, because she will start to recognize the lack of stability and calm in your absence. In relationships, the feeling of longing is often misunderstood. Many people fear being absent from their partner's life, thinking that their absence will cause disconnection. However, when you create space, you allow for the natural process of longing to develop. This desire is not about playing games, it's about giving the other person time to reflect on the connection and recognize your value in their life. Absence can be the most powerful tool for creating emotional depth in relationships. By practicing Stoic detachment, you allow your absence to trigger a deeper emotional response, making her appreciate you in ways she might not otherwise. One of the most attractive qualities in a person is emotional availability, the ability to connect on a deep, meaningful level. However, there's a fine line between being emotionally available and being emotionally dependent. The Stoic approach encourages emotional availability while avoiding dependency. When you become emotionally dependent on someone else for your happiness or validation, you lose your sense of self, and that neediness becomes a turn-off. To make someone miss you, be emotionally available but also independent. By striking this balance, you create the perfect emotional dynamic. She feels emotionally fulfilled, but she doesn't feel smothered. Your absence becomes significant, not because you've withdrawn, but because you've remained emotionally secure in yourself. Unpredictability is a key element in keeping someone engaged and making them miss you. The Stoics taught that while we should remain consistent in our values, there is room for strategic unpredictability in our actions. Predictability can lead to boredom, and boredom leads to disconnection. To keep her interested, you must create an element of mystery and uncertainty. This isn't about playing games. It's about ensuring that your behavior remains dynamic, not stagnant. When you mix predictability with moments of surprise, she will be constantly thinking about what's coming next. Unpredictability in your actions creates a sense of excitement that lingers long after you've left, making her look forward to the next time you're around, because it signals emotional insecurity. The Stoic approach teaches that we should not cling to people for our happiness or self-worth. Instead, we should cultivate independence and self-sufficiency. When you stop seeking constant reassurance or attention, you send the message that you are emotionally self-reliant. This absence of neediness actually magnifies your presence because it conveys confidence, self-respect, and strength. The more you rely on yourself for emotional fulfillment, the more attractive you become, and when you're absent, the space you leave behind will be filled with longing and desire. Stoics understood the importance of setting and maintaining personal boundaries. Boundaries are essential in creating and maintaining healthy relationships. To make someone miss you, it's vital to maintain your personal space and set boundaries that protect your emotional and mental well-being. When you're always available, constantly accommodating, or neglecting your own needs, you risk becoming disposable in the eyes of others. The respect that comes from having clear boundaries ensures that your presence is valued, not taken for granted. By respecting yourself and your time, you send the message that your presence is earned, not expected, and that makes your absence much more significant. Absence creates emotional depth, and the Stoic philosopher knows that absence, in itself, can be a tool for growth and connection. When you're absent, it gives the other person the chance to reflect on the connection and gain a deeper understanding of their feelings toward you. This absence can foster emotional growth, both in the relationship and in the individual. When you allow space for reflection, you make them think about the quality of the connection, and the emotions they feel become more meaningful. Emotional depth can only be achieved when both people embrace and respect each other's space. This makes your eventual return even more impactful because it builds an emotional foundation that's grounded in mutual respect and understanding. The final principle of Stoicism in relationships is the power of leaving room for thought. The Stoic individual knows the value of introspection and self-reflection. By giving someone space, both physically and emotionally, you allow them to reflect on the relationship, their feelings, and their connection to you. This pause creates room for them to miss you and to appreciate the impact you have on their life. By leaving room for thought, you don't need to do anything more than simply be yourself. The absence of pressure and the opportunity to reflect make them realize the depth and value you bring to the relationship. It's not manipulation, it's the art of creating emotional space, which is crucial for making someone miss you deeply. In Stoicism, detachment is often misunderstood. It's not about withdrawing from others, but about maintaining control over your emotions and attachments. To make someone miss you, you must practice subtle detachment. When you remain emotionally steady and don't overreact to situations, you create a sense of mystery and depth. Detachment doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means you're secure in yourself and don't rely on anyone else for emotional fulfillment. This creates space for the other person to feel your absence. When you're not constantly available or chasing them for attention, you trigger the realization that your presence is something they desire, making them miss you when you're not around. Absence has a deep psychological effect on the human mind. It triggers the brain's natural longing for what is missing. In the context of relationships, when you remove yourself or create emotional space, the other person is left with a desire to reconnect. This is rooted in the Zeigarnik effect, which states that the brain remembers incomplete tasks or unresolved emotions. Human beings are wired to be drawn to unpredictability. Stoicism teaches that while it is essential to remain grounded and consistent in your values, it is also powerful to create moments of unpredictability in your actions. When you are consistently present, people get used to your availability. But when you suddenly step back, you create a surprise, which sparks emotional tension and curiosity. This unpredictability makes people want to know more about you and makes them appreciate your presence even more. When you don't follow the predictable pattern, you activate their subconscious longing for the unexpected and leave a lasting impression. One of the defining qualities of the Stoic is self-control. Stoics practice mastery over their emotions and impulses, which allows them to lead their lives with purpose and integrity. When it comes to making someone miss you, self-control is essential. By practicing self-discipline, you avoid the temptation to constantly seek attention or validation from others. When you refrain from overreaching or appearing desperate for affection, you build a stronger presence that is felt more deeply when you're not around. Your self-control becomes a magnet, drawing them in because they sense your strength, which is rare and deeply attractive. Desire is often built through absence rather than presence. The Stoic mindset teaches that attachment to external validation and people can be harmful, both to you and to those you care about. The absence of neediness and emotional attachment allows someone to feel the emptiness your absence creates. This void sparks desire and longing, making them miss you. By not constantly seeking approval or affection, you give them the opportunity to appreciate what you bring to their life. Absence makes them realize how much they value your presence, and that realization drives their desire to reconnect. Independence is a powerful tool for making someone miss you. The Stoics emphasize that a truly fulfilled life is one that is led by an individual's internal values and principles, not dependent on others. To make someone miss you, you must cultivate emotional independence. This doesn't mean ignoring or avoiding relationships, but rather focusing on your own growth, interests, and passions. When you have a full life outside the relationship, you show that you are not emotionally dependent on them. This independence makes you more attractive and intriguing because it shows that you have your own strength, and when you step back, your absence feels more profound and valuable. When we talk about absence, we often think of physical distance, but true absence is also psychological. The Stoic teaches that true presence is about being completely engaged with the present moment, and that presence can continue to linger even after you are physically gone. If you've shared moments of genuine connection, whether through conversation, affection, or mutual respect, those moments don't vanish. Instead, they stay with the person. When you detach without withdrawing emotionally, your presence is still felt, even when you're not physically there. The psychological impact of your absence lingers long after you've left, making them miss you in a deeper, more meaningful way. Silent strength is one of the most attractive qualities you can cultivate, especially when it comes to making someone miss you. Stoicism teaches that true strength comes not from domination, but from inner peace and self-control. A man or woman who can handle adversity without reacting impulsively or emotionally commands respect. When you leave, that strength is felt even more. They miss the quiet confidence and self-assurance that you brought into their life. This type of strength doesn't need to be loud or in your face. It speaks through your composed actions and steady presence. Strategic withdrawal is one of the most powerful tools for creating emotional depth. The Stoics emphasized self-sufficiency and the importance of not relying on others for emotional validation. By withdrawing strategically, whether it's pulling back a little from regular communication or choosing not to always respond immediately, you create space for the other person to miss you. This doesn't mean disappearing without a trace, but rather allowing them to feel the void your absence creates. This space allows them to appreciate you more deeply and to want your presence once again. Emotional stability is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy and plays a huge role in making someone miss you. People are naturally attracted to individuals who maintain their emotional composure in the face of challenges. The Stoic man or woman does not react impulsively to the highs and lows of life, but rather responds with calm presence. This ability to remain emotionally steady creates a safe space for others, making them want to be around you more. When you step back or give them space, they realize how much they miss the stability you provide, and that emotional stability becomes one of the most powerful draws for them to come back into your life. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic philosophy is detachment, not from people, but from needing their attention and validation. When you detach emotionally from the need to cling to someone for approval or affection, you create a dynamic where they begin to long for your presence. This doesn't mean you stop caring, but rather that you care less about constantly receiving reassurance. When you allow someone to feel that you are not overly dependent on them, you give them the space to appreciate your presence. When you're absent, they miss the emotional balance you bring into their lives. This absence is not about rejection. It's about creating a healthy distance that makes them want to come closer. The Stoic philosophy teaches that independence and self-respect are core values. The ability to walk away from a situation or relationship without fear of rejection is powerful. Women, in particular, are drawn to men who can walk away and leave a situation when it no longer serves them. This creates mystery, respect, and, ultimately, a desire for something they can't easily have. If you're constantly available, they'll take you for granted. But if you know when to leave, your absence becomes irresistible. By practicing Stoic independence and knowing when to withdraw, you make your presence more valuable and create a deep emotional desire when you're not around. People are naturally drawn to uncertainty, especially in relationships. The absence of certainty creates anticipation and tension, two emotional states that fuel desire. When you're predictable and always present, people lose their emotional investment because they know what to expect from you. The Stoics understood the value of creating space for mystery in their lives. By leaving room for unpredictability and stepping back when things feel too comfortable, you create an emotional gap that they will feel when you're not around. The key is to create emotional uncertainty that makes them curious about your intentions and longing for your presence. Absence is not just about creating a void in a relationship, it's also about fostering emotional growth, both for you and for the other person. In Stoicism, personal growth is about learning through challenges and embracing difficult situations to become a more complete person. When you practice emotional detachment, you allow space for both people to grow and develop. This absence allows your partner to reflect on their emotions, their desires, and their connection to you. Emotional growth happens in the absence of the constant reassurance and presence, which is why stepping back allows the other person to realize just how much they miss and need you. Self-sufficiency is a core principle of Stoicism. It teaches that happiness and contentment come from within, not from the external world or others. To make someone miss you, you must practice self-sufficiency in both emotional and physical realms. When you're able to stand strong on your own and don't rely on someone else for your happiness or fulfillment, you radiate a sense of magnetism that others are drawn to. Your absence becomes magnetic because it reflects that you don't need them to complete you. The sense of self-worth that comes from within makes people realize your value, and they begin to miss your energy, your presence, and the strength you provide. Setting boundaries is essential for creating a relationship that is based on respect and emotional depth. Without boundaries, people can easily take you for granted, and your presence loses its value. Stoicism teaches the importance of knowing your limits and respecting your own emotional space. By setting and maintaining clear boundaries, you create an absence that naturally triggers longing. Your boundaries don't make you less accessible, they make you more valuable because you show that you respect yourself. When you're absent, you leave a gap that makes them appreciate you in ways they might not have before. One of the quickest ways to repel someone is by being desperate for their attention or affection. Desperation is rooted in fear and insecurity, and it's a huge turnoff. The Stoics understood that true power comes from self-control, inner peace, and emotional steadiness. When you are emotionally detached and don't seek constant validation, you create an absence of desperation that is incredibly attractive. This absence makes your presence feel rare and valuable. By practicing Stoic emotional control, you avoid coming across as desperate, and instead you become someone who others want to be around, creating space for them to miss you, getting swept away by them. Emotional tension creates an emotional charge that makes people want to come closer, yet when it is unresolved, it creates longing. When you practice emotional self-control, you create tension without it being overly stressful or draining. This tension draws people in because it fuels their curiosity. The moment you step back and create emotional space, that tension intensifies, and they feel your absence. This absence, filled with unresolved emotions, makes them crave your presence. Available, your presence becomes expected, and people take you for granted. The Stoics believed that self-sufficiency was key to emotional fulfillment, and by not constantly being there for others, you demonstrate that your life is full and that they must earn your attention. When you are absent, they realize how much they value your presence, and that makes them miss you. Being unavailable doesn't mean neglecting someone. It means making your presence feel rare and special, which creates desire, courage, and inner strength. And to make someone miss you, you must embrace the absence of fear. Fear of rejection or fear of being alone can make you act in ways that are counterproductive, creating emotional distance instead of connection. By embracing the Stoic principle of courage, you are able to stay calm, collected, and confident. This lack of fear makes your absence not something to be avoided, but something to be desired. The more confident and fearless you are in your presence, the more others will feel your absence when you are gone. One of the most profound lessons from Stoicism is the balance between strength and vulnerability. On one hand, Stoicism teaches us to maintain our composure and resilience in the face of challenges, but it also acknowledges that vulnerability is a part of being human. To make someone miss you, you must exhibit this paradox, be strong enough to give them space, and confident enough to allow your absence to be felt. When you are vulnerable in your confidence, you allow others to see your humanity. In this absence, they not only miss the strong, composed you, but also the authenticity that is rare in a world filled with facades. Sense of mystery and longing. Stoic silence is not about avoiding communication, but rather about choosing your words and actions carefully. By practicing moments of strategic silence, you allow space for the other person to reflect on the emotions they feel in your absence. This emotional space leads to deeper emotional engagement, and the silence between you becomes filled with curiosity and desire. When you're not constantly filling the space with words or actions, they are left with the opportunity to miss the depth of your presence. Clinginess is one of the most unattractive behaviors in relationships. When you're constantly around, always available, and always seeking reassurance, you reduce your value in the eyes of others. Stoic philosophy teaches that true strength is found in emotional independence and the ability to remain grounded without constantly seeking attention. By being emotionally detached, you create space for others to realize how much they need your presence. The absence of neediness makes you more attractive because it shows that you are not dependent on anyone for your emotional well-being. This absence of clinginess makes your presence feel priceless when you return. Absence creates an emotional vacuum, a void in a person's emotional landscape that naturally causes them to reflect on what's missing. The Stoic way of living teaches that we should not be attached to any particular outcome or expectation, but by detaching emotionally, we open space for the natural pull of longing to occur. When you step back, either physically or emotionally, that absence becomes a powerful force. The other person is left with an unresolved emotional space, which they will subconsciously seek to fill by longing for your presence. The more emotionally complete you are on your own, the stronger this vacuum will be, leaving them thinking about you long after you're gone. The Stoics placed great value on self-sufficiency, the ability to be content, fulfilled, and emotionally stable without relying on external validation. To make someone miss you, you must first master self-sufficiency. When you are emotionally independent and do not rely on someone else for happiness or worth, you naturally become a person of high value. This sense of inner completeness is magnetic because it shows that you don't need anyone to complete you. In your absence, the other person will begin to recognize what they miss about you: the confidence, the emotional stability, and the calm presence that you bring to their life. Always there, physically or emotionally, your presence is often taken for granted. The absence of your presence, however, makes them reflect on your connection, leading to a deeper emotional understanding of what you bring into their lives. The distance you create isn't about playing games, it's about respecting your own space and allowing them to reflect on how much they truly appreciate you. This distance creates a longing, a desire for reconnection that becomes more pronounced, the more you maintain your sense of independence. One of the most attractive qualities in any relationship is leadership. But true leadership doesn't involve constant action or verbal direction. It's about silently leading by example. The Stoics understood that leadership is subtle and internal, not necessarily demonstrated by loud words or forceful actions. To make someone miss you, you must lead without having to announce it. When you are absent, they will miss the quiet strength and guidance you provided, even if you never explicitly told them what to do. Your leadership is felt in the way you act, not in what you say. It's this silent presence that makes them long for you when you're gone. Emotional investment is a key ingredient in any successful relationship, but it's often tested in moments of absence. Stoicism teaches the importance of patience and emotional discipline, as well as the value of not rushing or forcing emotional connections. When you are absent, you give the other person space to evaluate how much they are truly invested in the relationship. The absence of your presence forces them to reflect on their feelings and often intensifies their desire for you. Emotional investment requires time and space to grow, and absence is the perfect tool for fostering this investment in a relationship. While physical distance can be effective, it's the emotional distance that often has the most profound effect. The Stoics believed in the power of emotional balance and being anchored in your own sense of self. When you create emotional distance, you are giving the other person the opportunity to reflect on your presence, your values, and your significance in their life. This absence is not about withdrawing or ignoring them. It's about detaching emotionally to give them the space to miss you. This emotional distance keeps them engaged and constantly thinking about you, wanting more of your presence in their life. To make someone miss you, you must learn to be unavailable at times. The idea of unavailability is rooted in Stoic independence. When you are always present, people take you for granted, and your absence loses its power. To make her miss you, you need to be emotionally unavailable from time to time, giving her the space to realize your value. Unavailability doesn't mean ignoring her, but rather maintaining your own boundaries and priorities. This creates a healthy sense of longing, as she begins to miss the unique energy and presence you bring to her life. By practicing Stoic detachment, you ensure that when you are there, your presence feels far more precious. Emotional independence is a cornerstone of both Stoic philosophy and strong relationships. It's the ability to be emotionally self-sufficient and not dependent on others for your happiness or self-worth. This self-reliance is magnetic because it signals that you are whole on your own, and when you enter a relationship, it's because you choose to, not because you need the validation. When you can detach emotionally and step away for a while, it creates a pull of longing in the other person. Your absence becomes a symbol of strength and self-sufficiency, making them appreciate your presence when you return. It's the perfect balance between being emotionally present and not being overly attached, which leaves them wanting more. Emotional control is an invaluable asset, and the Stoics taught that mastering one's emotions is key to personal power. When you practice emotional self-control, you learn not to react impulsively to situations, but to respond thoughtfully and deliberately. This control also extends to your presence and absence. By not overreacting when she pulls away or doesn't respond immediately, you exhibit a calm and composed nature that naturally draws her back to you. The absence of emotional instability in your life makes your presence feel steady and dependable. In relationships, giving someone space often has the paradoxical effect of bringing both people closer. The Stoics taught that freedom is a key component of love and connection. When you give her space, you're not abandoning her. You're allowing her to breathe, reflect, and understand the value of your connection. The absence of constant presence allows her to miss you, to see what she has when you're around. The key is in creating emotional distance that strengthens the bond. When you return, the connection feels more powerful because it's been reinforced by time apart. Absence isn't about avoiding intimacy, it's about letting it flourish by allowing the other person to miss you. One of the main Stoic principles is the idea of emotional resilience, the ability to grow emotionally by facing discomfort and challenges without being overwhelmed. In relationships, practicing emotional resilience means you can embrace the discomfort of absence without feeling insecure or needy. When you step back, you give the other person the chance to reflect on their own emotions, grow, and recognize their feelings for you. This space allows both of you to develop a deeper understanding of yourselves and the relationship. Your absence, rather than being something negative, becomes an opportunity for growth and renewal, and when you return, it's with more depth and meaning than before. The Stoic approach to life emphasizes self-validation over seeking approval from others. To make someone miss you, you must validate yourself first, rather than seeking constant confirmation from them. This type of self-sufficiency means that you do not rely on the emotions or opinions of others to determine your worth. When you are confident in your own self-value, you naturally create a magnetic pull. Your absence becomes a reminder of your emotional strength, and the other person can feel the difference when you're not around. You've taught them that your presence is not something to be taken for granted, and they'll miss the emotional stability you bring into their life. Subtle power is often more effective than overt displays of strength, and it plays a critical role in creating desire when you're absent. The Stoic man's power comes from an inner reserve of calm, certainty, and control, not from outward force or aggression. When you practice this subtle power, you create an emotional space that invites curiosity and longing. The more you demonstrate control over your own emotions and actions, the more people will feel your absence. This subtlety makes your presence more desirable, and when you step away, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a statement of inner strength that causes the other person to miss your grounded energy. Psychologically, when someone withdraws from a relationship or situation, it forces the other person to reevaluate the connection. The natural response to withdrawal is a desire to reconnect, to figure out what was missing, and to restore what has been lost. By stepping back, you create this psychological tension, which makes them feel the emotional void left by your absence. The Stoic perspective teaches us that detachment is not about disconnection. It's about letting go of the need for constant validation, which in turn allows both people to reflect on their emotions and gain clarity. This process makes them miss you, often in ways that are deeper and more genuine than they would have felt had you stayed constantly available. Space doesn't just create distance, It creates emotional depth. In relationships, emotional depth is often developed through moments of separation and reflection. When you give someone space, you allow them to experience their feelings without the distraction of constant interaction. This gives them the opportunity to reflect on what they value in the relationship. The Stoics practiced detachment not as a way of avoiding connection, but as a way of fostering deep emotional engagement. Absence can significantly increase emotional appreciation. In relationships, people often take the other person for granted when they are always available. The Stoic approach to life encourages awareness and mindfulness, being aware of the present moment and recognizing the value of what you have. By removing yourself for a short period, you allow the other person to reflect on what they have and truly appreciate your presence. This emotional absence doesn't create resentment or distance. Instead, it creates a desire to connect and a renewed appreciation for what you bring to the relationship. Patience is a vital Stoic virtue, and it plays a significant role in making someone miss you. In a world of instant gratification, the ability to be patient and allow things to develop naturally is rare. When you practice patience in relationships, you avoid rushing or forcing connections. By stepping back and waiting for the right moment, you create the space for desire to grow. Patience builds anticipation, and anticipation makes the other person yearn for your presence. The more patient you are with yourself and the other person, the more desirable you become. By showing patience, you allow the longing for your presence to build, and that longing makes your absence feel even more powerful. Silence in a relationship often speaks louder than words. Stoicism teaches that there is power in silence, the ability to remain calm and present without the need to fill the air with constant words or reassurances. When you practice Stoic silence, your presence becomes more profound, and your absence becomes more noticeable. Silence gives the other person the opportunity to reflect and appreciate the depth of the connection. By stepping back and allowing silence to exist, you don't need to constantly reassure or explain your feelings. This absence of words invites them to long for your presence and understand the value you add to their life without the need for constant validation. One of the most attractive qualities someone can possess is emotional control. The Stoics believed that true strength lies in the ability to remain composed and unshaken, no matter the situation. This emotional self-regulation creates an aura of confidence and security, making your presence far more impactful. When you practice emotional control, you not only become emotionally stable, but also become a person others can trust. Your absence, when coupled with emotional control, makes people feel a deeper sense of longing for the calm and consistent energy you bring. Without needing to prove your worth, your absence becomes the absence of emotional turmoil, which is incredibly attractive. Mystery is one of the most powerful tools for attraction, and Stoic principles can help cultivate this elusive quality. The Stoics valued inner peace and personal clarity, which allowed them to remain somewhat enigmatic to others. In relationships, cultivating mystery through absence can leave the other person wanting to know more about you. When you give them space and time to reflect, you allow them to piece together your character and feel the pull of curiosity. Absence creates an emotional gap, and in that space the mind begins to imagine, wonder, and desire what it cannot easily have. In relationships, emotional detachment doesn't mean being distant, it means being emotionally independent while still being fully present when needed. Stoicism teaches us to let go of the need to control others, and instead, focus on mastering ourselves. By practicing detachment, you avoid becoming overly dependent on someone else for your happiness, which in turn allows for more genuine connections. When you step away emotionally or physically, you don't create a sense of abandonment, but instead give the other person room to grow and reflect on the relationship. This detachment builds respect and attraction because they see that you are not clingy and are comfortable on your own, making your absence feel significant and desired. Neediness is one of the biggest turnoffs in relationships, and it's the opposite of the Stoic principle of emotional self-sufficiency. Neediness stems from a lack of self-confidence and a fear of abandonment. The Stoics taught that we must be self-reliant and emotionally stable without seeking external validation. When you create the absence of neediness, whether through physical space or by not constantly seeking attention, you allow the other person to feel the void of your absence. This makes them miss you, not because you are demanding attention, but because you maintain your own emotional equilibrium. Absence due to emotional independence is one of the most powerful ways to make someone long for your presence. Emotional tension is often the catalyst for desire. The Stoics believed in balance and the importance of not reacting impulsively to emotions, but instead using that energy to respond thoughtfully. To create tension, you must step back at times, not giving away everything, and allowing the other person to wonder. Absence creates tension because it leaves them with unresolved emotions, feelings that haven't been completely answered or explored. This tension is not about creating conflict or drama, but rather about allowing the other person to miss you and long for more, creating emotional intensity in your absence. In relationships, it's important to occasionally step back and reassess your emotional connection. The Stoics valued reflection as a way to grow and improve. By taking time for yourself, you give both yourself and the other person space to evaluate the relationship and your emotional needs. Absence, when done thoughtfully, allows both parties to reflect on the bond and miss the connection. When you create this space, you give the relationship a chance to grow and strengthen. It's not about withdrawing, it's about fostering a deeper emotional connection by allowing both of you to reflect and value each other's presence more. Absence isn't just about making someone miss you, it's also an opportunity for both people to engage in self-discovery. The Stoics encouraged introspection and the process of examining one's own life. In relationships, when you create absence, you open the door for the other person to explore their own emotions and understand what they want. This space allows them to connect with their feelings and realize how much they appreciate the bond. The absence you create can lead to personal growth and clarity, making the relationship even more meaningful once you come back together. Respect is an essential element of any successful relationship, and it's often built in the space created by absence. The Stoics understood that self-respect is crucial for establishing meaningful relationships. By not constantly seeking validation or attention, you build respect for yourself and others. When you are emotionally independent, your absence becomes a signal that you are worthy of respect. The other person recognizes your strength and composure in stepping away, and this sense of respect makes them miss the emotional depth you bring to their life. Absence builds not only desire but respect as well, as they realize the value of your presence